Hello folks and welcome back to another episode. It's obviously myself, Rory Paddock, on behalf of picksfromthepaddock.co.uk. This episode we're going to look ahead to tomorrow's racing from Saturday. It's going to be a bit longer show, purely based because we've obviously got that much racing to get through. I'm going to jump into things and try and decipher a couple of the major handicaps that we're going to see on ITV tomorrow. I want to look at a few races from Chelmsford, Haydock, Taunton, and even a few races from Navan. Hopefully I'll pinpoint a few winners and we'll crack on. So the first race I want to look at is one of the televised races. It's the 225 for Mascot. In list one I'm signing with two horses, the two of the oldest horses in the race. Top weight William Henry hails from the powerhouse stable of Nicky Henderson. Despite being sort of 10-year-old, he's pretty lightly raced. It's easy to forget because he doesn't race that often that this horse has a fantastic festival record at Cheltenham and he's competed at the highest level. He's perhaps carrying a little too much weight, but a race of this sort of nature is well within his grasps, and he always tends to be there or thereabouts. He very rarely runs a poor race, and he should strip fitter for his recent run as well. The oldest horse in the race here is also another, I guess, relatively lightly raced horse in the form of Jolly's Cracked It. He's got a decent record at Ascot. He sits on a decent mark, and hopefully he's had a recent wind up as well, and that could spark sort of a return to form. It's interesting to see him step up in trip as well. Not sure, that's still a bit of a question mark, so I'm not sure whether that's going to be a positive or a negative. But as a general rule of thumb, Harry Fry's run is certainly interesting, and those are my two against the field. In the race itself, the unbeaten T-Clipper deserves a mention, deserves respect, but this looks to be a bit of a huge step up for it, really, in terms of competition. Now, don't get me wrong, the horse could turn out to be something special, but purely from a punting and sort of value point of view, 6-1 best price at the minute, it looks too short for me. At bigger prices, Did They Leave You Out Too and The Knot Is Tied both look possible outsiders worth keeping an eye on, especially if there's money for them as well. And with that market support, potentially could run well at a decent price. But my two for this is William Henry and also Jolly's Cracked It. Moving on as well, we're going to have a look here in the 3 o'clock at Ascot. Princeton Royal. It's been disappointing, in all honesty, but now sits on a really attractive mark. Trainer Neil King sent out 2 recent winners as well, and the horse's record here at Ascot sits at 100% unbeaten record. Obviously, it looks a very tough race, and ideally, I'd like the ground to be a bit firmer, a bit better. But at around 40-1, that looks a massive price. Major Dangers comes in the form of like Kiddie Sart and King's Odyssey, but all of them are kind of weighted to their best already. A word to the wise with those horses, those two. I'd certainly follow them after this race, especially if they don't show much and inevitably drop down in the handicap mark. Likely favourite, Espoir de Gay, deserves his slot at the head of the market, Vinicius Williams' horse. Also unbeaten here. Ascot, a £14 rise in weight since its last win. It makes this a much trickier contest, especially on what's going to be pretty testing ground. But Princeton Royal, 40-1. That's a big enough price. Certainly not any certainty by any stretch of the imagination, but as a decent each way punt, yeah, that'd be for me. Now, obviously, if you want to know my thoughts on the rest of the ITV action, I'm not going to put them in this video. What you need to do, either this evening, Friday night, or tomorrow morning, Saturday, you need to go on www.picksfromthepaddock.co.uk, and I'll preview every televised race, all 7, and that includes the Clarence House as well, so make sure you check that out. Moving on elsewhere as well, after the TV racing, sticking with one of the TV venues, this time in Haydock, and it's the 4:15. It's interesting to see that Brian Hughes He waits around for nearly 3 hours from his previous ride, solely to ride a horse called Mount Muse. Obviously, Donald McCain loves to have a winner at one of his local courses, such as Haydock, and the 9-year-old looks set to go pretty close. A drop back down to Class 3 company and on a workable mark seems positives. And yeah, I can see Mount Muse grabbing place money in what looks a pretty competitive race. Now, away from Haydock, we've got to head over to a racecourse that, in all honesty, it's not going to get a shred of the Saturday's limelight, I suppose. But Taunton, in the penultimate race over there, it's the 355. It looks to be a potential breeze for Nicky Henderson's lover and leaver. James Bowen looks to be by far, and it's no disrespect to the other jockeys, but looks to be by far the most experienced jockey to take a ride in the race. Henderson's horse is obviously going really well at the moment. Lightly raced, considering its age. And the team will want to atone for the fact that the horse was beaten when a really short price favourite last time out. Likely to be short again, so you're not going to be bringing in the millions without putting millions on, but looks a pretty solid chance of a winner this afternoon. Obviously, that's the jumping action. I'm going to move all the way over to an evening meeting now at Chelmsford, where first one, I'm going to pick 2 from Chelmsford meeting. First of the 2 is in the 4:45. It's an amateur jockey race, but young jockey Alicia Whittington is absolutely on fire at the moment. I would possibly say that she looks set to be potentially the next big female jockey in the sport. She's going to be riding Sugar Plum Fairy for Tony Carroll. That's obviously in the opener. She has an absolute brilliant chance. A third over course and distance last time out when Alicia was on board as well. And also a drop in class, all pinpoint to a big run. Later on the card in the 6:45, it is my bet of the day. It's my nap, and it has to be Channel Packet. That's the 6:45. A third place effort last time out should stand the 6-year-old in good stead. Nick Appleby has bagged a few winners recently as well, as has jockey Ben Curtis, who's been riding very well. It's actually the first time the horse has raced in Class 6 company on the all-weather. He's a few pounds lower than his last winning mark, and some bookies have him currently priced at around 9-1, and for me that is ridiculous. I don't think the race is that good, and I certainly think that this horse has it way within his grasps to be able to win a race like this, especially with that drop in class. 9-1, if you can get it, grab as much of it as you can, because I'm pretty positive it's not going to be that price coming off tomorrow. And then finally, we make a little trip over to Navan, over to Ireland, whereby there's 3 horses I like the look of. I'm going to be throwing these in perhaps a Trixie. So the first of which is in 12:45. Fleur is likely to be a short enough price, but a new recruit to the Gordon Elliott yard. David Russell jumps in the saddle, and with the experience from France that the horse will have gained, should absolutely relish heavy ground. Later on in the 2:30, it's another Elliott and David Russell combination, and this time it's in the form of Sheriff de Lille. Should go closer than 2:30. 2 promising runs in better handicaps than this since joining Elliott's yard, and is likely to probably get his head in front and back in the winner's enclosure. And then the last of the trio, and certainly not least, it's a 3:05 at Navan. You cannot ignore Minella Indo, by far the classiest horse in the race, with 2 Grade 1 novice hurdle wins last season even. A second behind Lorena on Chase debut. All roads point to a win here, and if it doesn't win, I'd be very surprised. The likelihood, perhaps something like First Approach is the most likely to follow the 6-year-old home. But those are my selections tomorrow. Hopefully you've made a note of them. I'll put them up on the screen now just so you can make sure you've got them. So bring them up here. So there we go. The ITV handicaps there, you can see. Got your other tips there. Lower and Lever, Mount Muse, Sugar Plum Fairy and Channel Packet. And also, there's a good bulletin now. We've got Fleur, Sheridan Leal, Manila Indo. Remember to check pigsfromthepaddock.co.uk for all my ITV selections tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching, and fingers crossed for a few winners.